Morning. There's a story that I heard this Shabbos that I guess I'll talk if I heard the story, it's applicable and should be related. There was a little boy who very, very sadly, Rahman al-Islam, was in a terrible accident. And as a result of that, he lost his left arm. And when he was in school, the kids weren't as sensitive as they should be, as nice and as kind as they should be. And some kids took advantage of this boy's vulnerability. After all, he doesn't have two hands to fight back. So sometimes he was bullied around and pretty much defenseless. His father was having a lot of, his parents, you can imagine, a lot of pain from this. That this poor boy, it's not his fault. In addition to him not having his arm, he was also a very small kid. He's smaller than the rest of the boys. So here he is, he's a little kid, doesn't have his left arm, and he's in trouble. So the father, the kid comes home and he's crying and he doesn't want to go to school. So his father decided that he has to help his boy. So he enrolled him in a karate class. So this boy went to take karate, and comes for the first day to the class, and he's there with a bunch of other boys, and everybody has their white whatever, and their belt, and they're beginning the lesson. And of course, with his lack of his left arm, he's very, 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 very at a very great disadvantage. And 90% of the moves that were being taught, he couldn't follow. And he felt utterly ridiculous. He felt very, 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 very out of place. And if he was miserable in his regular classroom where they were doing academic learning of whatever they were learning, math and this, to stand with a bunch of other boys in a place where the physical nature, the physical structure of your body is so important, here he was a total loser. So, the lesson is over and the boy can't wait to run home, but the father was there, came with him, and he was watching. The boy comes over to his father with tears in his eyes and he says, "What in the world am I doing here?" His father felt the same, he thought it was maybe a big mistake. And he goes over to the master. Now the master was in Japanese, a 65-year-old guy. This person was like a very, 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 very advanced karate master. And he says to him, like, "Is there anything to do with my son?" And the master says, "Oh, yeah. He shouldn't be in the class with everybody else. I'm going to give him private lessons. It's just me and him." Okay. So they made up that on Monday he was going to come at a certain time and it was going to be a private lesson. Shows up for the first lesson and the master says to him, shows him, he says, "I want you to follow what I am doing." And he shows him a move. And it was a very complicated move. It was very quick and there was a lot of movements involved in it, and he showed it to him and he said, "Copy me, do this." And the boy looked at him like he's crazy, and how in the world do you expect me to do that? So he shows it to him another time and he says, "Now just copy me." So the boy tries the best he can, and of course it was a very, very lousy imitation, but he did it. So the master said, "Okay, now do it again." So the boy did it again. And he said, "Now do it again." And he did it again. And so it went by 15 minutes, 20 minutes, a half an hour, 45 minutes. And the boy was getting impatient because how many times can he do the exact same move that the master had told him? But that's what he kept on doing. And he's thinking in his head, "I hope he'll teach me something else today," but nothing else. And the lesson was over. And the boy went home and he was kind of feeling good that he learned how to do a karate move. And he came back on Thursday. And on Thursday he was sure that now we're going to go on to something else. But the master told him, "Okay, now do the move I told you last week." So he goes and he does it. And he tells him, "Now do it again." He does it again. Halfway through the lesson, he thinks, well, he says to the master, he says, well, are you going to teach me something else? Because I kind of know this already. And all the other boys that are going to lesson have all these other cool moves that they do, and I'm just doing this. So he says, well, who's the sensei, me or you? Meaning, sensei is the master. He says, you. He says, okay, then just listen to me. So they finished the second lesson, and that's all that he did. And this was the first week, and so was the entire month. That's all he did. Every single day, again, and again, and again, and again, and the boy was going crazy, but yet he listened, and he did exactly what he was told. Another month went by, 6 months went by, and that's all he was doing. An entire year! But the boy didn't quit. He came back always for his lesson. He was there on time, and he did the move again and again and again. When the year was over, and then when the boy had marked down on his calendar when he started, now he's 11 years old, and he comes in and he's sure, okay, 1 year it's done, and now we can go on to something else. The master says, you've mastered this move. Now it's time to review, to do Chazara. Well, they spent the next year doing Chazara, exactly that one move that he taught him. When he was over the second year, the boy says, now what? He says, now we are going to the tournament. He says, master, you crazy? To the tournament? I'm going to the contest? He says, yeah. I said, they only know one move. He says, don't worry, you're coming. So he goes, and he has his first contender. He goes into the ring, and this big boy, like 2 times his size, come in, and he's all ready, and he looks at this little kid without the arm, and he gives him such a look of disgust, like, how in the world are you going to fight me? And the master just tells the boy, he goes, just do your thing. So they come in, and it doesn't take 5 seconds, and this big zhlub of a boy, oops, is on the floor. And everybody's clapping, they can't believe it. It was unbelievable, he knocked him out. Okay, so they send out the second contender. Second contender comes, and he's eyeing the boy a little suspiciously, but he's sure he's going to win him. And the boy does the exact same move that he did with the first guy, and it had the exact same effect. It wouldn't take seconds, and the guy was down. And now the third person comes. Now, everybody's talking. The boy, with one hand, only has one move. And he's using that move. So now the third guy is talking to his coach and his guy, and he's telling him, obviously they're expecting him to do that. Well, that's what the boy did the third time, and he had him down. After he won all 3, he won the entire division. So he's the champion. So his master goes over and he starts talking to the whatever, and he says he wants the boy to fight the adult. This was the boys division. But now, these were the great tournaments of all the karate, whatever. So now he has to fight the adult, who's on the next level. So the adult comes, okay, if he asks for it and he's willing to go up against the adult champions, let's try that. So the adult guy comes in and he's mamish 3 times the size of this kid. And he looks, he's a black belt, karate, whatever, and he looks at this little kid, and he really feels, first of all, he feels totally ridiculous fighting him. Secondly, he feels very bad for the kid, because he knew he's going to knock him out in a moment. So he turns to the kid and speaks to him, and he says, listen, why do we have to do this? Kid, I'll be honest. You have your honor now, you won the division. I have my honor, I won whatever. Why am I going to sit and fight you? And he's like, let's call it a tie. I'll go home with mine, you go home with yours. So meanwhile, the master steps in, and the boy was really thought it made a lot of sense because he's terrified. But the master comes in, and the master says, hold on, I'm the sensei, right? I'm in charge. He says, no, you fight him. Okay? So the boy, he listens, he's used to listening, so that's what he does. He gets into the ring, and boom, he puts the guy down. And it was the second and third, and he is the champion of champions, and no one can believe it. And on the way home, he's riding in the car next to his master, and he turns to him and he says, my teacher, how in the world did I do that? What happened over here? So he said, listen here, let me tell you 2 things. Number 1, the move that I taught you was not a simple move. The move that I taught you was like one of the most advanced karate moves that only an 8th, whatever, black belt, but on the highest level, does those moves can do that. But you really, really, really practice that again and again and again until you got it down pat, right? But there's another thing. He says the only defense against that move, the only defense, is to grab the opponent by the left arm. And you don't have the left arm. So I'm going to ask you boys, we're going to learn a little bit of the mimer, and I'm going to ask you boys to connect this story to the mimer that we're learning and to the Ois Vov that we're going to learn today in the Friediger Rebbe's mimer. I want to see if you can make that connection. So let's see. Friediger Rebbe is talking about building a Mishkan for Hashem, making this world into a place for Hashem. And the way we do that is we build a Mishkan, we use crushing, we use beams. We have to take, as discussed earlier, and we spoke about this last year, we have to take the materials. We have to take the materials of this world that are not holy, that are not Kedusha, and use them to make a home for Hashem, even though they're not holy. And the Rebbe begins to explain what is the unholiness. First of all, he says it's made out of shittim wood. As we spoke last year, shittim means shtus, means stupidity, it means foolishness. Kedusha is smart, the unholy is not smart. And yet that's what we have to use. But then the Rebbe begins to explain in this mimer that the actual, this parak, of this ois in the mimer, that the actual word of teresh, if we break it down to the tiny details, we have three letters: a kuf, a reish, and a shin. And the Rebbe brings, the Friediger Rebbe brings what it says in the Zohar. In the Zohar it explains in Parshas Bereshis, or the introduction of Zohar, how all the letters came before Hashem, and every letter wanted that Hashem should create the world with that letter. And every single letter was disqualified besides the base. Because Hashem created the world with a base, Bereshis bara Elokim. And the Zohar explains what Hashem said to each letter, why that letter is not the right instrument or the right tool to create the world. When the Reish and the Kuf come before Hashem, that they want to be the ones who Hashem will create the world through them, Hashem said, oh, no. These are letters that are seen on the other side, on the dark side, on the side of the Klippa, on the side of the side that is anti-Kedusha. They, for some reason, have a connection to these two letters, Reish and Kuf. It doesn't mean, Chas v'sholem, that every Reish and every Kuf is trouble. Avraham Avinu has a Reish in his name. Sarah Imenu has a Shin, which is also one of those letters that were disqualified. Right? Rivka starts with a Reish. Yitzchak has a Kuf in his name. So obviously, in Kedusha actually starts with a Kuf. No? So it doesn't mean that every time a Reish and a Kuf is there, it's a bad thing. But there is something about these two letters that has a certain negativity that is related to the other side, and that's why Hashem said, I can't create the world with you. And even your buddy, the Shin, which is a very, 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 very good letter. It's a letter of truth. It's the three parts of the Shin stand for Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. The Shin is a really, really good, solid letter. The Shin partners up with the Reish and the Kuf to form the word Sheker. And the Rebbe brings an interesting thing, that every lie, Reish and Kuf, are letters that are associated with a lie. A lie, something that's not true. But every lie, in order for a person that a lie should be believed, in order to get through with a lie, you have to add a tiny little bit of truth to it, at least a little bit. Because only with a little bit of emes does the lie stand. So the Reish and the Kuf grab the Shin, which is true, and that's how you get the word Sheker. But in general, all these three letters are not worthy, because the Eibishter wants a world that is going to be a world of truth, not a world of lies. Okay, But what are we doing when we're making a Mishkan? We're taking the Shin, the Kuf, and the Reish, even though it is all negative, and we're turning them around and we're going to use them to make a Mishkan. But before we get to that, the Rebbe begins to explain what is the difference, what is a Reish? And it's interesting, he's going to discuss later in the Maimon, not this year's Perek, what is the problem with the Kuf. But first he's talking about what is the problem with the Reish. He says a Reish is a very, very similar letter to a Dalet. A Dalet and a Reish look almost exactly the same. What's the difference between them in the way they look? Anybody, what's the difference? Yeah? The Reish has a round back, a curved back, right? And the Dalet's got like a flat, and something really is sticking out in the back of the Dalet. What is sticking back out in the back of the Dalet? So anybody that learned the Maimer before, what distinguishes and makes the Dalet different than the Reish is there's something attached to the Dalet in the back, and back there, a little Yud, a little tiny dot. That little, because a Yud is really a dot. You know, you look at the Dalet, you're not going to see a whole big Yud. But it's explained in Chassidus that the essence of the Yud is really only a dot, a period, a decimal point. That's a Yud. So in the back of the Dalet, there is a Yud attached to it. And that Yud is the secret what makes a Dalet super, super holy and super, super powerful. And the Reish, because it's missing, the only difference is one dot. And then the Reish becomes a very, 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 very weak letter, and the Dalet becomes the most all-powerful letter possible. Between the Dalet and the Reish. Because the Dalet possesses a Yud, and the Reish doesn't have that Yud. Now the Rebbe says something very interesting. Both Dalet and Reish, besides looking the same in their appearance, also have the same meaning. You realize that every letter in the Aleph base is also a word. It's not like, you know, in English letters, A, B, C, these words don't mean anything. And even though a bee is the same like a bee, a bumblebee, but there's no connection of a bee to a bumblebee. But in Torah, the letters of the Aleph base, the letters have meaning. For example, Aleph, does anybody know what Aleph means? Aleph means thousands, Elef, but Aleph has another word also. This week in the Parsha, Parsha's Bishalach, it mentions Aleph. You say it every day in davening. You got it from the Mitzvah Mimer. I will. It's futuristic, but the word Aleph itself. Anybody? Oz Nivalu, yeah. The chiefs. Oz Nivalu Alufei Edom, the chiefs of Edom. You boys tell me, why is an Aleph called Aluf, chief? Anybody? It's the chief of all the letters. It's the head letter, so it's called Aleph. Beis means a house. What did Hashem do with the Beis? What did we just learn? What did he do with the Beis? Created the world. What is the world? What is the world? A house. And a house for who? The house for Hashem. So the Beis is a bias, is a house. And so every letter has a meaning to it. Now what is the meaning of the word Dal? Dalas. A Dalet. Now Dalet really is Dalas. Dalas. What really is the root of the word of a Dalet? Dal means not weak, close. What does Dal mean? Dal means poor. A poor man is called a Dal. So Dal essentially is very, very, very poor. Like who? Like a little boy without the left hand. Poor. Defenseless. Can't do anything. Very weak. Dal. Poor. Okay. What does Reish mean? Reish, we say in Slichus, we say Kedalim ukeroshim dafaknu de lasecha. Like poor men and like those that are very poor, The word Reish comes from the word, the Rosh means a poor man as well. But the Rebbe says an interesting thing. Rosh means someone who is poorer than poor. Dalet means poor, and Reish is really super poor. Alright, so now we have these two letters. Both of them don't seem to be two big macho letters. Because they're both seem to be, as you said, very weak. Because they're both poor. They're both, they don't have much. But yet, what do we say? The secret that the Dalet has over the Reish is that the Dalet goes ahead and fetches itself a little Yud and attaches the Yud to the back. What does that mean? That in the back of its head, right over here, in the back of its memory, it has one thing that it's constantly thinking about. And what is that? Hashem, yeah. But in simple, what does a Yud resemble? Let's understand, what does the Yud resemble? Well, Yud, if you think about the Yud that distinguishes it from all the letters of the Aleph base, what's unique about the Yud? It's tiny. It's the one letter that is tiny. It's small. It's the one letter that doesn't scream. I am. I know. I understand. I want to have it my way. What the Yud has is humility. It recognizes it's tiny and it's small, and it's the letter that represents surrendering itself. It makes itself very small. So what does the Dalet do to compensate? You see, the Dalet is poor. What does the Dalet do to compensate for it being so weak? What does he go? What does he do? He surrenders himself to who? To Hashem, to a power much bigger than him. Let's go to the little boy. What does the boy do that's defenseless? And he can't fight. He's missing an arm. Literally, if anything, he could have chosen, if he would have gone into a math contest or anything like that, he has a chance. But this boy going to karate, it's ludicrous. It's insane. The poorest thing you can be is when you're physically not fit. And he is really, really, really physically unfit. But he doesn't give up, and what does he do? What does he do? What was the quality you saw in this boy? He was what? Okay, he didn't give up, but there was something else. He listened. He listened to the sensei. He listened to the master. And when he listened to the master, guess what? He was able to do the unbelievable. You know why? Was this karate move essentially this boy's karate moves? Was it his? No. It was very far from him. Because the most advanced martial arts champion doesn't even know this move. This guy, this leader was a Japanese master who learned by his great-grandfather was a karate master. So it was a secret in the family. This was like the highest, the most powerful move. It doesn't belong to a regular person. But what does he do, the master? He shares it with who? With this little boy. And eventually what happened after much more practice, what did it do to the boy? He owned it. It became his, but he never ever had a thought, because when he sat into the car after he knocked them all, he didn't turn to the master and say, what do you think of me? What did he do when he sat into the car? He immediately said, wow, what happened? And the master explained to him what happened. Boys, we're all very small. We all have problems. We all have difficulties. Some of you might be brighter in other things. Other boys might feel that they're disadvantaged in this and learning and other elements. But there is one thing that makes a person super powerful and unbreakable. And that is what? If you surrender yourself to something more powerful than you, and in our case, it's our surrender to our big super master who is our Rebbe. Our Rebbe is the ultimate champion. Malchus, kingship, power over the whole world in essence. The ultimate. But a chassid is someone who has what's in the back of a chassid's head all the time. There isn't a move that we do as a chassid without what? Without the bittul. Without the yud. Bittul to our Rebbe. Now why is the Rebbe powerful? What's his power? What's the power of a Rebbe? And especially our Rebbe. You know what the power of the Rebbe is? He also is a Dalet. He's a Dalet to who? He's a dalet to the Eibishter. He's a dalet. He has a yud in the back of his head, and he's totally bottled to Hashem. And when a person, I want to ask you a question. If you look at the Rebbe's life, you look at the Rebbe Bechlal, you see that the Rebbe appears to be someone who's actually completely superhuman. And it's weird to say this, but he's the true Superman. Literally, because when the Rebbe, you see that he doesn't have any human limitations. He can sit and fabrain for hours and hours and hours and hours. And that would make any person, even a young man, super tired. And then right after that, and he didn't sleep the night before, or maybe got a little tiny bit of sleep. And then stands for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours giving dollars while he's fasting. And you try doing this. You're young. You're talking about a 90-year-old man, an 80-year-old, 85-year-old, 86, 87. The Rebbe stands and he gives dollars and dollars. It's impossible. Your hands would fall off. You cannot do that. You cannot do that. A human being can't do that. And the answer is when you empty yourself out from yourself, and you're not you because you're totally surrendered to someone bigger than you, then how much power do you have? Endless power. Because it's not you, you're just a window for light coming through you. It's not you. And that's what Chassidim are. Chassidim are also, you see, Chabad is amazingly successful. Lubavitch today is the most, and it's been recognized by everyone, as the most powerful Jewish group in the world. But you know what we began when the Rebbe became Rebbe? You know how small Lubavitch was after the Holocaust? Just a handful, a couple of chassidim in a little shtibel, in a little basement, surrounding the Rebbe. And the Rebbe said in Basi L'Gani, Cheder, we're going to conquer the world. We are going to bring our message across the entire world. We're going to make this whole entire world into a home for Hashem. And how did the Rebbe do it? And how did Chassidim do it? Chassidim did it because Chassidim are bottled to the Rebbe. We're bottled to the Eibishter. And what differentiates Chassidim from non-Chassidim, a lot of non-Chassidim, great people do a lot of good work, but their work is limited. Achievements are all limited. They have only certain amount of kaiches, because as great as you are, you're only as great as you are. And even if you're getting stronger and bigger, you're still only as big as you are. But if you plugged into who? To someone who is boundless and infinite. Who's richer, boys? I want to ask you the question. Who's richer? Imagine someone who won the lottery last week, but imagine if the guy won singular. Only one person won the lottery. And he won $1.6 billion. Right? That's one guy. And he's so rich, he has all that money. Oh, he's got a ton of money. How about someone else who's given the keys to the mint where they print the money? Literally. And he has full permission to take whatever he wants. But he actually has only $10 in his bank account. Who's richer? The guy who can go to because the other guy, after all, who'll spend, most lottery people who win, they get so shicker with their money, get so shicker they didn't work hard for earning it, they lose all track and they end up spending up their money, and it's only 10, 15 years later. That's a statistic. I don't know people who win so much, but could be, I don't know. But the idea is they end up losing their money because they didn't even know how to save, because it's a limited amount. But if you're connected to the mint, where they're printing the money and the source of money, then what? You have nothing to worry about. You have nothing to worry about. Shluchim from the Rebbe don't have a penny in their bank, ever. I'm one of those shluchim. Don't have a penny, never. We're always in the red. I have no idea how in the world, but you know what? You just do what you got to do because you know you're doing the Rebbe's work and you're buckled to the Rebbe, and when you're buckled to doing his work, guess what? Somehow, in a way that you don't expect, from somewhere, the brachas come. They come, and we can accomplish things no one else can do, because Chassidim have the one simple thing. I really want to tell you this. I wasn't born in Lubavitch. I tell this to you every year. What was the most attractive thing to me when I came to Lubavitch, when I was learning in yeshivas, non-Chabad yeshivas, actually quite anti-Chabad yeshivas. What was so appealing, what I loved so much, and what I realized immediately when I was 17 years old, that the secret of Chassidus that makes it so beautiful and so rich and so real is one word, and the word is bittul. In the non-Hasidic world where I used to learn, everything was all about being perfect. Be all you can be. Try to develop yourself to be shlemos, to be all that you can be. And when I came to Chassidus, I found a whole different language. Never in the world did they talk about being shlemos. Quite on the contrary, Chassidus tells you you're a big loser. I mean, you have this problem, you have this problem, and you have this problem. But guess what? You're connected to something real. You're connected to something true. You might have this deficiency. You might have that problem. You might not have your arm. You might not have that. But the Rebbe is working through you. Eibishter is working through you. You just got to do what you got to do with Mesiras Nefesh, with focus that you're serving emes and truth. And then even if you're lacking certain abilities and certain powers, amazing things you will accomplish. Don't be a reish, be a dalit. That's a chassid. The chassid has a dalit at the end. A big dalit of Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Big bittul. That's our success. Every single one of us. In school, whatever it is, especially your boys are at the point of being a dalit in your life. A dalit is your students, you're learning. A dalit is the poor meaning you're receiving from higher. Hopefully you'll have you'll grow and you'll learn a lot of Torah and you'll know a lot of Chassidus and a lot of Torah, and then you'll be able to be a mashpia. And to some degree, every child is already a mashpia. But your main element in your life today is to be a keli, is to be a vessel to absorb. The secret of being a vessel, the secret of being able to absorb, the Rebbe says, and this is the whole content of this is it's a bittul. And when you're coming in and you're saying, when the boy was able to look at his master and say, I totally don't understand, it seems to me ridiculous that you're making me chazer the same thing again and again and again. You know, we're putting on tefillin every day, same thing. So you gotta wonder, why I'm putting on tefillin for every day? Can't we do something different a little bit? Every day the same tefillin. You know how good you get at putting on tefillin? When you're 95 years old. You know when Mashiach comes, so right before Mashiach comes and you're put in the ring and we have to give the final satan and the sitra achra, the final sets to knock them out. Bang! Boy, oh boy, these tefillin putters, wow, they do the moves so awesome. Because the Eibishter taught us such a cool move. He taught us such an advanced karate move that tefillin is unbelievable. And you're so good at it because you do it every single day. And guess what? When time comes, bang, the other side stands no chance. And we Yidden, we Chassidim, come out the ultimate victory, the ultimate triumphant, and with simcha and with joy, we celebrate in the Beis HaMikdash for all eternity. And I'll let you finish. L'chaim.